God wanted to level the playing fields, to reveal to us that, guess what? There's absolutely nothing you can do to deal with your sin. Nothing. So what are we to do? As I talked about March 7th, that decision, 10 months later, I stood before a real judge because of that decision. And as I stood before the real judge, he rendered down a real sentence. And some of the people in the sanctuary right now, my family, witnessed that. I left the courtroom in real shackles and chains. Real. Spent the next 55 months in a real jail with real bars, with real inmates and real violence and real darkness and real chaos. It was real. And that's a sad story. That result and outcome is a sad reality if it was to stop there. You know what's even sadder than that? Is how there are people that may come through these services any given week that will hear the gospel and the good news, that it's not religion, it's relationship, that it's not a good deed, it's a good God. They can hear that, reject that, not want that, or not live that, and guess what? They will stand one day before a very real judge. They will stand before a very real judge with a very real consequence. And they will stand there with their very real good works. And those good works will never measure up to a good God who gave us the standard in Christ. That's truth. And if one person can applaud that and believe that, then I've done my job. But if the church at large does not receive the gospel, how we will stand before a real judge. And on that day, I know the only thing that I can say is I trusted in Jesus. My story did not stop the way I ended it there. In fact, I would like to add an insertion and digress. Because as I stood on January 7, 2010 in front of a real judge, and he was about to render down a real sentence, and I would leave and go to a real prison, my victim's son stood up. And right after he got done saying, "You destroyed my world," with the next breath and a composure that only heaven could provide, he said to me, "But I forgive you, my brother." And he came over and he shook my hand, and we hugged right there in the courtroom. And I was set free forever. Set free by forgiveness. Do you understand what I'm saying? That God did something infinitely greater for us. That while we were in our sin, while we stood in the place of judgment, Christ came and died for me. It was as if you're standing before that judge and Jesus came and said, "No, put his sin on my account and I'll die for it and I'll raise myself from the dead from it and I will give him liberty and I will give him my spirit." That's the gospel, church.